Welcome to Module 3. In this video, we will talk about the second phase in our methodology, and that's creating an attractive resume. In this module, I'll go by subtopics, and the first one is the importance of relevant experience as opposed to general experience. Now, this is all about making sure all your past experiences highlight at least some portion of the roles you're targeting. In fact, even the titles, not just tasks, even the titles need to be relevant. For example, if you're targeting a marketing role, you need to make sure that all of your past experiences have some sort of marketing-related tasks in them. This will increase your chances dramatically because now you have a lot longer relevant experience, and relevant experience beats overall experience, right? I'll simplify this. Think of it this way, right? You have worked for, let's say, 5 employers in the past, 3 years in each one, yeah? So you have a total of 15 years of experience. But your pure marketing experience is only mentioned in one of them. That gives you only 3 years of marketing experience. So what that means is that don't walk around with your chest puffed up saying you have more than a decade of experience. No, you don't. Not in the role you're targeting. In fact, you're a junior. You only have 3 years of experience, right? Someone who is as young as maybe like 27 years old with 5 years of marketing experience is actually more experienced than you, right? Even if you're at the age of 40, you're still a junior in that sense. So here's the most important part. I'm not saying you lie in your resume. Not at all. Such advice wouldn't come from me. I wouldn't do that. But what I'm saying is this. If you have worked for an organization, in this case 3 years, unless you're a factory worker, unless you're a blue-collar employee, you must have done a lot more things than those that can fit in your resume, let alone in 5 bullet points. So what I'm saying is go through your self-evaluation carefully and find those 5 relevant tasks that you have worked on and mention those relevant ones in your resume instead of mentioning completely irrelevant out of the scope tasks, right? If you can mention your relevant accomplishments, then it'll be even better, right? Another important thing to consider here is the unwritten requirements. Unwritten requirements are those tasks and requirements that only the hiring manager knows, right? HR don't know about this. So most of the time, HR are because they're not aware of those, they're never in the job description. I mean, to start with, we don't do online applications, so we have very little to do with job descriptions. We don't do online applications, but in case you're being inspired by them, right? Or if you're still making online applications on the side, right? Then pay attention to those unwritten requirements. These unwritten requirements can be like, they can be software, they can be tools, or even certain technical skills. Let me go practical again. If you're applying to a sales role in a company that you know using the software Salesforce, then go ahead and make sure it's written in your CV or in your letter of interest. If you can plug that in, right? It'll be an incredible differentiator. Or it could be MS Projects for project management roles, right? Primavera for risk management. Or if it is Google you're applying to for AdWords, you're targeting AdWords, then you have to make sure you include as many Google AdWords related tasks and skills as possible. Basically, the ultimate goal here is when somebody in a senior position, the hiring manager, looks at your resume, there's nothing that prevents them from saying, this is missing, right? Or I wish he or she had this. The third aspect I will cover now about your resume is the industry-specific or domain-specific megatrends. Mentioning megatrends in your resume or in your letter of interest, which we're going to cover later on, is the single biggest thing you can do to convey the message that you know what you're talking about. You're not some hopeful wannabe, but you do know your industry pretty well. They will immediately get that message. Again, let me give you an example. One day at work when I was with PwC Consulting, PricewaterhouseCoopers, the partner came rushing to me, right, with a resume in his hand, waving. Imagine a 60-year-old man running to me in the office with a piece of paper. And I thought that was pretty interesting because you don't see that a lot. That's an unusual scene. So anyway, he comes and he says, Dennis, look at this Josephine girl. She has experience in the solvency of the social welfare systems. And that was one of the things that we were working on for a client at that particular time. And it was very interesting finding someone with that particular experience. So yeah, I mean, I remember she even had a publication on this. She was invited for the interview the next day, and she got the job within as little as 1 week. 6-figure salary, 1 week. Just like that. I mean, she sent one email to the right person at the right time with the right content. Bam! We were hooked, just like fish. Yeah, she was literally fishing, and she fished us. Right? She used the right hook, the right bait, and we were hooked. And this is not an isolated case. There are many examples like this. So each industry has its own mega trends, and many mega trends, not just one, right? Many. Another example, like digital marketing. Like one of the mega trends in digital marketing is nowadays edutainment, education and entertainment combined, right? One of the many. Whatever your domain is, you're the expert. You know the best, right? If you don't know, find out. Yeah, make a research, understand these topics, then include them in your resume, weave them in, right? For example, in data science, the last time I was reading about it, it was dimensionality. Now I'm sure that's outdated too. I mean, that field grows very fast. Now, why are we doing this, right? Why are we including these megatrends? Essentially, why we're doing this is because we want to separate ourselves from the pretenders. You want to prove your expertise as early as possible, because you don't know if you'll ever have a chance to interview and prove your skills in person. You don't know that. Most often, you won't have that shot, right? There are millions of pretenders out there, who just go online and copy-paste tasks. You don't want to be considered as one of them. Okay, I want to share more examples. I love giving examples. I hope you love them too. So, for example, if it was sustainability, right? The mega trend nowadays is sustainability reporting in accordance with GRI, Global Reporting Initiative, right? If it was project management, then we have nowadays project management maturity assessments. Like as I mentioned in data science, it was dimensionality last time I checked, but it's probably something else now. You know the best. Okay, so let's move on. Whenever possible, try to have this structure. Try to have this structure, right? You have accomplished Y following the approach of X measured by Z. If you don't do this, if you don't include clarity into what you've done, then it'll be a sentence of what I call fluff, meaning it'll add no value to the document and it'll consume unnecessary attention span. Next point is attention span, right? Each word in your resume needs to serve a purpose. With each word being read, you're consuming attention span. And unfortunately for you, that attention span is not unlimited. This is literally true. Let's assume that they have 100 points of attention. Yeah, you just consume those 20 points, 20 out of 100 in the profile or the career objective section. So now you need to ask yourself, is what you mentioned in those two sections worth 20 points? If you ask me, no. Do they really need to know about your career objective? I mean, as a hiring manager, I can't think of a reason why I should need to know your career objective. If anything, you need to know about my career objectives, or rather, my objectives of the department. You're the one approaching me, not the other way around. So, I mean, you may start with a profile summary. It's fine. And key skills. It's fine. But you need to keep them highly meaningful. In most cases, I see things like confident, well-organized, meticulous, interpersonal skills. Are you kidding me? These are just blah. I mean, who isn't well-organized or doesn't have interpersonal skills? Or a smarter question is, who would say they aren't publicly in their resumes that they aren't? Meaning, if it's not falsifiable, then what good is it to have it there? Think of your CV as a sales letter, right? If you don't grab the attention of the reader in the first 4 seconds of reading that document, you'll lose them forever. They will not read the rest of the document. They will skim through the rest. A major difference. What you want is that for that document to be read in and out with full attention. And you can achieve this if you only hook them well at the beginning. Now, while we're on the topic, I want to also talk about very quickly the topic of, or the question, whether you should have a one-page resume or more pages is fine. Now, it all ties back to what I mentioned before, attention span. You don't have to squeeze everything in a page or two. It's all about whether your document is engaging enough that lets them carefully review the rest, right? But if you fill it with fluff, sentences with no meaningful contribution, then even a one-page document is not going to be read. It'll be just skimmed through. Even a one-page document is too much to read. I mean, a person's attention span can run out after reading 10 words or 10,000 words. You do read books or long articles, don't you? Without running out of attention span. So having a short one-page resume isn't the solution to getting your resume read. The solution is to create each section as a sales letter. As I mentioned earlier, each section needs to get their attention to read the next section. If I get bored with fluff at the summary, I won't read the experiences section, right? At least not carefully. If I get bored at the experience section, I won't read education, and so on and so forth. So your resume here, being short or long, irrelevant. The importance is how valuable each part is, so they keep reading and reading, finding more about you, and giving you an opportunity to create that attractive persona in their minds in that document. As a result, they can't wait to meet you. That's what you want. But if you, again, fill your resume with generic tasks that you copied and pasted from the internet, then of course they're not going to be interested. You're just going to be considered as one of the many, many pretenders. Okay, so the next one is very, very important. Transfer of credibility. This is very important. You gain massive, massive credibility from the brand name of your employers. I'll give you an interesting analogy here. Think of your resume like the brochure of an assembled PC, personal computer. When you buy a non-branded assembled PC, what do? You look at the brand name of its components, right? You say, oh, it's NVIDIA graphics card, it's Seagate hard disk, the Intel processor, right? These components give that machine, the assembled PC, the credibility. In a way, that's where it's similar with you. You're very much like that assembled PC. When they look at your resume, your brochure, the first thing they see is your previous employers. Who are they? Have you worked with, learned from, and mentored by the best experts in the industry, which usually only exists with top multinational employers, even if they're not multinational, but still top employers. In addition, you also get to prove that you're an MNC material, multinational company material. Working for top multinationals require more than just those technical skills. It also requires certain soft skills, like navigating office politics, mastering internal communication, right? Managing up, managing down, being assertive but not aggressive, amongst many others. And if you only have ever worked for small organizations, you could get away with a lot of attitude or communication problems. Small firms do tolerate misbehavior significantly more. It usually doesn't kill your career. Bigger firms don't need to. They don't need to tolerate it because they can always very easily replace you with another high quality candidate tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but soon, right? They can put out a job post and they'll have 1,000 applicants the next month. Small firms have to tolerate it because not every qualified talent wants to work for them. This is just one element, I mean the soft skills. But the biggest reason is, as I mentioned before, you simply get to learn from the best in the industry, right? And that gives you massive credibility. So what do you need to do? You know, on your CV, right below where you mention your employer name, you have to include a 2 or 3 sentence brief talking about your employer before you get to the tasks section. Who are they? Is it a market leader in its domain? Top 10% of the companies in its field? Annual turnover of over $1 billion? 100,000 employees? Who are they? educate the reader. Talk about the might of your employer and include their website URL as well. For example, McGowan Reporting, Family Dollar Store. Who are they? I don't know anything about them. Are they a 5-member company, a mom and pop shop, right? Or a major multinational firm with thousands of employees and a market leader in its domain? Where, for example, you were exposed to many different and challenging responsibilities. Educate me. Build credibility. Because if you don't build that credibility with your employers, then you do not have credibility. Right? Once you have explained it, who your employer is, then you have built that credibility, and having worked there successfully, that credibility transferred to you as you were part of such a big and successful organization. This is really important. Okay, let's move on. Now another one. One of the mistakes a lot of people do is they're very conservative with what they share. Right? Their CVs are dull. It doesn't show anything of a character or a serious accomplishment. We want to be able to, with our CVs, we want to be able to create an attractive character. I'll give you some examples so it's clear for you. I'll give you my example. PwC Consulting Partners, for example, have seen millions of resumes similar to my professional background, right? Just as your future employers have seen similar to yours, MBAs from Harvard, MBAs from Stanford, former McKinsey consultants, vice presidents of top multinational firms, former CEOs. But in my case, they have never seen a champion sailor with consulting background approaching them before. That was my differentiator, right? Immediately, it caught their attention, right? I mean, think about it. Partners at consulting firms are all a bunch of rich fat guys who play golf in the weekends, and they wanted to be associated with a sports like sailing, right? So they were interested. It caught their attention. It wasn't just my MBA from Cass Business School or my prior consulting experience that caught their attention. They've seen them all before. They were all ticking the boxes for me, right? Because they're boxes. You need to check them, fine. But sailing, for me, made the cut because it differentiated me from all the other Harvard MBAs. It helped me with maximizing my probabilities. So in your case, do me a favor and think of that edge. Don't rush it. It won't come immediately. Think very long and hard until you come up with that differentiator, right? Create your own persona that is different, that is unique, right? Genuine. So they get curious and they want to meet this interesting character. That's why I suggest you overshare in your resume. Build a character. Don't stay as a piece of paper. Another point, if you have built something in your career, right, or if you've taken a role in building something monumental or significant, include details and give the URL, the website URL, right, to a relevant website. Let them see it with their own eyes. If you're an architect, give URL to a page where you show the pictures of the buildings that you have designed successfully, right? If you delivered projects, say social projects, give the URL to a page where that particular service can be read, right? If you're a software developer, give the URL, the website, to a page where they can see it, right? If it's a public software, it makes it more tangible. It's no longer just words on the paper, but they can actually see it with their own eyes. Huge difference. And at the end of the day, I always say this, it's all about maximizing the probabilities of successful outcome. Now, below this page, there's so many examples. I want you to spend about 20 minutes, download all the documents, and very carefully go through my comments for each line. And once you finalize that resume, and remember to just copy and paste the relevant sections into your LinkedIn profile too. See you in the next module.